Hello, everyone. We are live. Sorry we're late again. It was my fault today. My mic is still messed up, and Avi tries to come fix it, and then my whole computer crashes. So my computer may overheat during this live topic. But what a great discussion! What a great segue into what we're talking about today, which is digital equity to ensure that all communities have access to the same thing. So, Avi,
Mhm.
let's just walk right into this discussion. Why is this a hot topic right now for local agencies across the country?
Well, it's been a hot topic for a while, and it was sort of highlighted in 2020 with the pandemic and the fallout from it. Right, you had most kids in this country and overseas going to school virtually. What that meant was you assumed that everyone had access to the same kind of internet everywhere, that you could just plug in your Zoom and you could, get to class. What that exposed is the gaps between the haves and the have-nots in many different ways, right? We just assume that everyone has a laptop. We assume that even if the school's given you the laptop, that you have the internet and the connectivity to get on the internet to do your homework, to attend classes. So that was very apparent, very very early on, and it's odd because it wasn't like a third world country problem. It was, but it was also an American, a European problem, and we saw it real deeply in here in Blount County or rural counties across the states where you just didn't have the internet, or even if you did, you couldn't afford it. So, a good example is here in East Tennessee. The terrain is very hilly and it's sparsely populated, right? So the AT&Ts and the Comcasts of the world don't necessarily have the economic incentive to uh, sort of go and serve the clients that live in the mountains and the jungles, and they don't have the incentive to run the fiber optic cable that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so these people that live here in East Tennessee, in places like Walland and Townsend um, and all of those remote areas, they just didn't have the internet. Even if they could afford it, they couldn't have it because no one was supplying it for them. So that's just one big example of digital inequity. Now you think about the broader sense that you and I have access to high-speed internet if we live in the city, and that gives us access to information, to opportunities, to stay on top of things and learn new skills. Uh, if you don't have that, what do you do anymore? You could go to the library, but it's like learning at the speed of 1975, where you could be in 2023 if you had the right tool sets in your home or your office or wherever. So it's a big problem, and I don't think anyone has come up with like a silver bullet to solve it. There's plenty of ideas. We have some, as you know, but no one's really solved it.
Can you speak to some of the programs that may have been developed to bridge the digital divide and provide technology to those who are less fortunate?
Right. So you can look at it from different ways, right? I- is it funding that's lacking, right?
Mhm.
So post pandemic, the federal government, local governments spent a lot of money, have made a lot of grants available for uh, enhancing and spreading the word of broadband and internet and connectivity and equity for all. But I think that's just one part of the problem. There's one solution. Just because you have the money doesn't mean that the solution will be found immediately. What we've found in the last 3 or 4 years is that, especially for a rural mountainous community like Blount County, again, there is no one solution, and you can't just give millions of dollars to like the big internet players and say, "Hey, go serve our communities." They are going to find a way to um, make money, obviously, but then it's going to be on your dime, on the community's dime. So what we've done here in Blount County is pretty cool. And when I say we, it's in conjunction and partnership with the governments in the region. And it was pretty cool. So in 2020 is when the pandemic hit. But the cool thing is Blount County and its constituent city of Maryville and Alcoa, had been working steadily towards an infrastructure buildup that would spread across Blount County in terms of fiber optic network. Now they have 150 plus miles of fiber across the county. So in 2020 they may have had maybe 80 miles, but those were crucial 80 miles, because when the pandemic hit and its impact was known, we were quickly able to pivot and connect to the schools and give those kids that don't have internet or good internet at home the ability to at least upload and download their homework uh, by going to the school's uh, parking lot and accessing the Wi-Fi, going to a library or at the mall. So
Right.
lots of cool things happened, and it showed us that another event like that or an extended pandemic can really have an impact on the children and the economy and everything we do as human beings. So all of this theory about how digital inequity is bad for the economy was really seen up close and personal. So the programs that have come out of that are plenty. Like, the state of Tennessee has made several $billion available for broadband and expansion of broadband. But again, no one's talking about how specifically you're going to do that. If they are, I don't know. We're not at the table, but they are not targeting specific technologies that would make it available for everybody. So a lot of programs exist. I think it's going to come down to um, putting together the solutions that work for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you speak a little bit to the collaboration that had to be done by the city managers and the county mayor in response to the fiber ring?
Yeah.
Fiber
So
you spoke to.
so it was critical that the utilities were involved, right? Because they own the poles, they own the pole infrastructure. They already have wires going across the county, and they work together as two different utilities. So, excuse me, it's about uh, um,
It's that time of year,
yeah.
folks.
Anyway, so the utilities were critical in this. They were the driving force. They're the ones that said yes to the grand plan. And the grand plan it sounds very simple at this point, but it all came down to the different jurisdictions and the different utilities talking to each other and agreeing to work together, right?
Yeah,
So they played a huge role. And of course, the city managers were, and the mayor were very involved in this. They are the ones that said, yeah, let's take this risk and see how it goes. And they've been at the forefront of doing that. So the city of Maryville Electric Department and city of Alcoa's electric department came together with Blount County and said, okay, we will combine our fiber optic infrastructure and agree to the same standards. We'll agree to the same processes. We'll agree to the same contractor that will design, enhance, expand, and repair fiber optic network in our county. So right now we're sitting at about 150 to 106, maybe 180 miles of fiber across the county that's now connected to Sevier County on the other side of the Smokies, and um, we're there's the world is our oyster as far as what the applications could be for each of these entities. And the biggest ones is connecting the schools together. I think the biggest impact was of that investment was connecting the schools to the 911 center, connecting the schools to each other, to the central office of the school system, and that allowed the school systems and the counties to save a bunch of money on an annual basis, but also provide for better services. So again, what does that have to do with digital equity? I think it's got digital equity has several layers of problems that need to be solved, and I think we've solved at least one layer with this initiative.
absolutely. As a citizen, what could I do, or what could our listeners do to take steps to promote this idea of digital equities, or maybe share their idea?
I think what we can do as a private citizens is talk about it. I don't think it's in our capacity to actually solve it, but voting for the right initiatives and talking to your local leaders and chambers of commerce are a huge driver of this initiative. So being involved with those initiatives, making sure we're not going down the wrong path, because it's easy to it's really easy to not understand this, right? It's pretty
Yeah.
complicated stuff. So when you say digital equity, you may think, oh, we need to put Wi-Fi hotspots in every kid's hand. We need to put Wi-Fi hotspots in every library. Yeah, that's one way of doing it, but it's not the most efficient. That's not the most secure. It's not going to give the biggest bang for your buck if you're a city or a county agency that's sitting on some ARPA funds and thinking about broadband. It has to happen in a very systematic manner, like we've done here in Blount County. So, as a private citizen, tell our story, right? Let's tell the Blount County story. Let's tell the MacNet story, and how we've been able to achieve a small piece of this puzzle. And there's a lot of work to be done. And a couple of weeks ago, I think Technovation had a nice article about our project on their website, which we shared on LinkedIn. Please check it out. It was pretty well written and researched, and at the end of the day, it says that uh, you know private private and public partnerships, private partnerships are the key to solving this dilemma, I think, because at the end of the day, the government, they're not necessarily in the mood to get into another utility business. The utilities might be. And then there's nuances like what the TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority, might allow you to do in Tennessee, or some other power provider that is involved in the distribution business. So it's not as cut and dry where a city can just wake up one day and say we want to provide broadband services. And that article also mentioned that you don't have to be the one that provides internet. You can be the one that builds the fiber network, and then you can have a private company come in and provide internet. So those nuances are not easily understood by anyone that's not involved in this business on a day-to-day basis, right? So it's really hard to confuse yourself and elected officials, and go down the wrong path with this.
Sure. So, can you speak a little bit to internet service providers and how they may fit? You alluded to it a little bit with this private public partnership, but how would they fit into this grand plan of
So
delivery?
you said electric service providers,
Internet. Sorry,
internet. I'm
internet
sorry.
services.
Your mic, jeez.
I know my
Um,
mic is horrible.
it's
Plus
fine. We'll get
my
you new.
accent,
We'll
it
get you
makes it
new.
even worse. Sorry, guys.
Digital equity, yes. Um, internet service providers, they're in it for money. No blame. We're doing this primarily for business and to make money. So ISPs would love to have access to a new neighborhood, would love to have access to all of the county and the people that live in a rural county. Their problem becomes infrastructure, where there is no fiber run to these neighborhoods, or there's one house in the whole 50-mile radius. Why would they go there? They need economic incentive. And that's why I come back to, it needs to be a public private partnership. So back in the 1940s, or I don't know, back in the day when the federal government said electricity is a right, it needs to be in every community, and no matter how far you are in the boonies, how far your farm is in the county, we're going to make sure that you have electricity. And there needs to be that kind of mandate, or that kind of agreement between the powers that be, that this is a priority, and we're gonna give these communities the ability to have the access. So it's like building roads, right? You live on the middle of nowhere. What if you didn't have a road to go there, right? Um, but you have a road. The government built the
Barely.
road.
I barely have a road.
All right. The government built a road network to get to your place, and but they're not in the taxi business. They're not in the Uber business, right? Now, as a private enterprise, I can start that service because there is a road. So I think the public sector needs to be involved in building those fiber optic networks and the infrastructure to facilitate private companies coming in to provide internet services.
I know you alluded to me living out in the boonies, and I do, and so it got my wheels turning a little bit. What do you feel? Do you feel as though you know those students, these kids that live out in more rural type areas. Do you think that they might be behind depending on what services are available to them? You know, computer, iPad, internet, right? Um,
I
how
mean,
did they grow?
yes,
I mean, they grow up differently, right?
yeah,
So,
it's not that apparent yet, but think about something like ChatGPT,
mhm.
right? I was at speaking at a community college yesterday, and the questions that the faculty were asking me, should we be allowing kids to use ChatGPT? And I mean, it's too late, right? That whole debate is too late. Yes, allow them, let them scale up and do something else with their lives instead of writing reports. But think about those children that don't have access to high-speed internet that allows you to connect to a chat GPT. What are they going to do? And we're not going to see that impact for the next until the next 5 years or so, where the rest of us that have high-speed internet and access to these services will either become will become extremely productive, will become more smart, will have the world's knowledge at our fingertips, and chat gpt type things will do the grunt work for us. um, but people that don't have access to it will that gap's going to get wider and wider. Hey,
Sure.
you're stuck.
In your
You're back.
opinion, is the future? What does that look like? What are some of the trends that we could be expecting as it relates to digital equity in the future?
I think one of these days we'll figure it out, meaning there's enough discussion and um, momentum behind solving that problem. There's money made available that at some point we will figure it out. Meaning, how do we solve this? There's enough money made available. People all agree on doing this. It's not a technical problem. It comes down to a solution that will take it systematically and make sure that everyone's interests are protected. I was in a meeting maybe a year ago with a large county, their mayor, and two of the largest internet providers in the country. And they were asking this mayor to give them funding so they can go serve underserved populations within that county. And the definition of underserved was that their companies don't serve them. It's not that these people don't have access. It's like our company doesn't serve those people. So you give us money, we can build a network and then start gouging our new customers. That's not going to work, right? The government needs to be in the business of owning and building that infrastructure just like they do with the roads. Build them, design them, keep up with them, and then let private sector drive their Ubers and trucking companies and taxi services on that. Um, and I think that is the public-private partnership is the key to this um, whole problem.
Absolutely. We do have a question from the chat. How can businesses and nonprofits help close the digital divide? And what are some examples of successful interventions? It's a good question.
Who is it?
No
Smart audience. Okay.
name, a no namer.
Okay. Um, I think it's the same thing. Keep talking about it.
Yeah.
There is, keep talking, spreading the word that this is a real problem, and it's going to be. It is if it isn't already. It's at the same level as housing and heating and water, right? It's the utility. It's the fifth utility. This is why you're seeing a lot of utility companies jumping in the fray. As nonprofits, depending on how deep your pockets are, you might be able to solve this problem by having like a digital initiative where you're helping people get um, laptops and tablets if they don't have any, or you help them get high speed internet at a discounted rate. I don't know, but this problem is not. It can be solved only if we have a major strategic initiative towards spreading broadband internet across the region. Um, so as nonprofits, keep talking about it. Find ways to engage with your leaderships at the county level, at the city level, at the state level, and stay engaged in the conversation. um, and our job is to stay engaged also and make sure that we're not going down the wrong path. And again, it's not my way or the highway. We just have spent 4 or 5 years thinking about this thing and kissing many frogs as far as the next greatest thing and wireless and point-to-point technologies, and none of that none of that will change the major problem.
From an economic standpoint, how has high speed internet or broadband, how has it affected the job market or entrepreneurship and innovation in itself?
It comes down to access. It comes down to what access to information you have. Like I spoke about this yesterday in that class I spoke to.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up with the internet. I The internet was revealed to me when I was maybe 18 years old. That's older than most people that are my age in the States, or my gosh, your generation probably grew up with the internet. So it's the same thing. When I was exposed to the internet, that's when I found out that there are people starting businesses and young people doing things. It opened up a whole wealth of knowledge to me where it was limited to reading the encyclopedia, which was 10, 15 years old, right? It- it's not that bad anymore, but that's what's going to happen to
Mhm.
the people that don't have access to high speed internet. That gap, the knowledge gap, will keep getting wider and wider as more and more AI enabled services come in. There's going to be a huge shift in the workforce, um, because it's gonna, the latest releases from Microsoft, they're going to involve ChatGPT and OpenAI to the point where you just tell it, hey, write me a report on so and so, and it's going to do it for you. So you either become smart enough to understand what to tell the system, or you're going to get phased out of the workforce. So that's you and me. That's the challenge facing you and me and our audience. Like, people that don't have access to those technologies are going to get left way behind.
What what is the role of our local government leaders in promoting digital equity? I know a lot of them, right? That they're like maybe you were. They didn't have access to the internet growing up, and so they don't like to dip their toes into what they don't know. So how can they become more educated and how can they promote this idea? Because it's like you said, if they don't do something about it, they're going to get left behind.
Mhm. I think keep watching our content. Get in touch. That's the easy one, but um, taking it seriously is important. Like, early on, before the pandemic, it was one of those things that was, cool to talk about in certain circles and not others. Um, but it's a serious problem. We're seeing it happen every day, and as local government leaders, we have to take it seriously and talk about it seriously, and take the right steps within your organizations to um, promote digital equity within your workforce. So it's nothing different. Again, keep talking about it. Don't get bogged down by the technical details, because that's why people like us and other consulting firms and technical firms exist. You need to keep your eye on the outcomes. Are we in the business of providing services to our citizens? And this is one of them. And how deep you want to go in it depends on, again, your community, how well you have established those relationships with the private sector, and keeping an eye on who can do what.
Sure. I love your idea of forming like a digital equity committee or community group, right? Where people can discuss their ideas and maybe come up with a plan and present that to their local government leaders. I
Hmm.
think that's awesome. I really
Yeah,
do.
and I think that's the story. I don't think we tell very well on what we have been able to do in this community in Blount County with the leadership. Right? It's pretty important that we tell that story. There's a way to do this, and it doesn't always have to be, doing onesie twosies and getting wireless hotspots for one school and not the other, or
Right.
giving hotspots to every kid. There's economical ways of doing, and at least solving one layer of that problem for of digital equity that we have been able to do
Yeah.
here with MacNet.
Sure. Sure. Guys, if you have any more questions about the magnet story, we're happy to share that. Maybe I'll go out and actually, as a follow up, and share that on my page and also on the Avero page. But Avi, if you'd like to, you can wrap us up. I don't have any more questions. I think we covered a broad scope of this topic. So if you want to go ahead and wrap us up, go
Yeah,
for it.
I think it's an important topic, and yeah, if we could throw it out there and tell people about Magnet, it's a one of a kind project that's only been done maybe one or two times in the states nationally. So we're really proud of that. But digital equity is not something to be taken lightly, especially given how quickly AI is going to change our world. It already has, and we need to get with the times and quickly provide access to people and children, especially that don't have access to high-speed internet, and that's going to make this problem even worse. So we'll keep working on it, and if you have any questions, please reach out.
Yeah, please reach out. Yeah, AI has changed my job role just within the last 6 months. It's amazing to
You're
me
so
how
much
quick.
smarter now. Yeah, I like
I
it.
know, I know. I write things better. I talk better. It's amazing, guys. It's amazing. No, thank you all for joining us today. And again, if you have any topics you'd like to hear about, please reach out to us. We're happy to help, happy to answer anything, and happy to talk about pretty much anything. So thank you guys for joining us, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.
Thank you, Megan. Bye.